Hi, so buddies, welcome back to the second part of this two-piece lounge set tutorial. If you don't already know, there is a part one of this tutorial already on the channel. The part one was on how to cut and stitch the shirt, and this second part we will be focusing on the shirt. This is a very easy shirt to make and very comfortable as well. If you're new here, my name is Joy and you are highly welcome to my channel. The measurements you will need to make these shorts are your full length, your hip circumference, waist circumference, hip depth, and your crotch depth. The first thing I did here is to fold my fabric into two using my hip measurement. I divided my hip by 4 and then I added 5 inches. So meaning that my hip is 41 divided by 4 plus 5 is equal to 15.5. So I'm starting with the front pattern. Next, I measured out the full length of my short, which is 16 inches. Then I subtracted 2 inches for the band width. This short is going to have a band. So my final length here is now down to 14 inches. Then I added half inches for the hem, making it 14.5. After this, I came in from the center front 3.5 inches for the crotch extension, and then I marked that out vertically. Next up, I marked out my hip depth, making sure to remove the 2 inches for the band. My hip depth is 9 inches, so I've gone ahead to square that out horizontally. Next thing I did is to mark out my crotch depth. I'm using 12.5 for my crotch depth, also making sure to include the band width in the measurement. On the hip level, I marked out my hip from the new center front line by dividing my hip, which is 41 divided by 4, and then I went ahead to add 1 inch for the seam allowance. Because the waist is going to be bearing an elastic band, I used the same measurement of the hip for the waist. After that, I linked it together. To get my crotch extension, I divided my hip measurement by 14 inches and then I approximated it to the nearest whole number. So it gave me 3 inches. Now this is the calculation I did: 41 divided by 14, and then I just approximated it to the nearest whole number, giving me 3 inches. So I marked my 3 inches from that center front line. Then I linked that point to the center front line at the hip level with a curve. Next thing I did was to extend the point down to the short hem and also extended my hip line to the short hem. I really want these shorts to be free and comfy, hence no measurements at the thigh. It's now time to cut out my pattern piece. If you're enjoying this tutorial so far, do consider subscribing to this channel, like, share, comment, and join this growing community of amazing designers. I do not take your support for granted. Moving on to the back, we are going to be folding our fabric just like we did for the front, but this time around we will add an extra 2 inches in the width. Then place the front pattern on it like this. Mark out 2 inch extra at the crotch extension area. Measure out the vertical line to make sure they are equal. You mark 1 inch extra at the center back from the outline of the front piece and then link these 2 points together. With a shallow curve, you're going to link the 2 points so that it doesn't divide the bum area. Now cut out your back piece. This short is going to have a pocket. So for the depth of my pocket, I'm using 10 inches. And then when sewing, the pocket intake from the side will be 1.5 after the seam allowance. Here is my pocket already cut out. So it measures 14 inches horizontally and 10 inches vertically for the depth. When folded like this, it measures 7 inches by 10 inches. Now to start stitching, the first thing I did was to join my center front piece together using a 0.5 inch seam allowance. After that, it's now time to fix the pocket. Place the pocket fabric right side facing right sides of your front piece. Mark out the pocket intake, which is 1.5, just after the 1 inch seam allowance. Then the next thing I did is to come up 1 inch from the down part of my pocket and then linked it with a curve. Sorry guys, I didn't know my hair was showing at this point, so please kindly ignore the distraction. Now sew around the curve, holding the two pieces together. After that, trim off the excess up to 0.5 inch before the stitch and top stitch on the pocket. Now make sure to notch the midpoint of your pocket before even sewing it to the front piece. Fold inwards along these midpoints that you have notched and fold it backwards for stitching. After that, sew the down part of your pocket and then stitch the upper part together with your front piece to secure it. This is what it looks like. Next thing I did is to sew the center back together, and then I brought in my front piece and then I joined it with the back piece at the side, using that my 1 inch seam allowance to sew. Then I stitched the inseam part with a 0.5 inch seam allowance. Now going on to the band, I measured round the circumference of my waist and it gave me 43 inches. Then I cut out a fabric of 43 inches by 5 inches in width. I folded it on fold and I gave it a good press. Then to sew it on the short, I started with sewing it from the inner part of the short from one side, which I already opened up a bit, and then stitched it round. After that, I covered it with the other part of the band to conceal the roughness. So I went ahead and stitched this round. Now, before you stitch it round, I suggest you trim off that excess because you do not want to take up space that the elastic will be passing through. So you can trim it down to 0.25. Now for the elastic channels, I'm going to be using a 0.5 inch seam elastic. Yes, you heard me. I marked out tiny channels of ½ inch each for the 2 inch size elastic, for the 2 inch size band, making it a total of 4 channels. But I advise you make yours a total of 3 if you're doing this type of elastic band, as it was a tad bit difficult passing my elastic through. But I love the final look anyways. Now after marking, I started sewing on the lines to form my channels. For the length of the elastic, I simply subtracted 5 inches from the circumference of my waist, which is 30, making my elastic length 25 inches. I cut 4 of these for the 4 channels. And then using a safety pin as guide, I passed the elastic through these channels. Stitch down the other end to secure elastic from snapping inside. This can be quite frustrating as you have to go through the process all over again. Then when you are done passing it through the channel, remove your safety pin after sealing that particular channel you have just worked on. Do the same thing for the other 3 channels. Then after that, seal close the sides of the elastic band. This is what the short looks like after the elastic. Now going on to the hem, measure round the circumference of the hem. Then cut a fabric of size the circumference you have just measured plus 2 inches seam allowance and then a width of 5 inches. So in my own case, I cut out a fabric of 32 inches by 5 inches. Then iron it on fold. I stitched it right side to the wrong side of the hem, starting from the inseam all round to the other side of the inseam. Then I gave it a very good press to the front of my short after sealing up the hemband at that inseam part. Then going in with my bias binding, I also ironed in flat on fold just like we did for the shirt in the part 1, and then I sandwiched it in between the hemband and the short, then sewed it, stitched it down. This is what the short looks like. I really love the fit of this outfit. Like I said, I was going for a really comfortable and chic look, and this did it for me. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, share this video, and as this would really help our channel to grow on the platform. Thank you so much for riding with me up until this very end. I remain my humble self, Joy. See you in my next video. Bye.